Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I made a trip to the local Salvation Army. I was looking for a piece of mid-century modern furniture, but I didn't find that, but I did find this antique secretary in the store, and the employee told me that it had been there for almost 4 weeks and no one had purchased it because it was in such a bad shape. So I could definitely see tons of possibility, so I agreed to buy it. It was $88, but he did give me a 15% discount. I brought it home and started looking at it. I had to clean it up and do a lot of things to it. The first thing I couldn't fix on it was just the legs. The legs, if you look at the legs, most legs, the furniture piece will sit on the legs, so it's a little bit sturdy, but these legs go all the way to the top of the piece, so the front and the back. And when you move this piece, it almost feels like it's toothpicks. It's not terribly unsturdy, but you don't want to move it around a lot pretty quickly. So I'll definitely put some felt legs on the bottom of it and be more careful when I move it around. But when you do move it, it does definitely feel very top heavy. So that's the first thing I couldn't fix about it, but the things I could fix about it are the things I'll show you next. One of those was a huge warp in the door. So you can see where the secretary door closes, there's a giant gap. That piece of wood was severely warped. If you look at the top of the piece, it's also warped. On the very back, you can see it sort of goes up at the back, and also on the side where the wood, two pieces of wood were joined to make that side piece, you can see a big crevice there. That's not terrible because I can fix all of those things. The only thing I would have trouble fixing, and I don't have a planer to fix it, would be the door. I could sand it, but that's just a huge gap, and really it needs a planer, so I ended up taking the door off of it. You can see from this, this particular angle, you can see how even from the front, you can see the big gap. And I think that's why no one wanted to have this piece, because it just, it looked really rough, and it looked like something you couldn't fix very easily. So here's a video of the piece and what it looks like. You can see the little toothpick legs. You can see tons of scratches, stains, indentions. You can also see where they made the piece. There's gaps. It was coming apart at the side. You can see where the door was sagging. The drawer was sagging right there on the right side a little bit. There's like a little crack. Lots and lots of stains, lots and lots of marks on it. I don't know if it was ink inside of it. There was something inside of it that smelled absolutely terrible. You can also see where the letter slots in the back of it was made with something that looked a lot like plywood or some other type of wood. So there are definitely multiple types of wood, which isn't unusual, used to make this piece. You can see the original brass hardware used to hold on the door was still intact. It looked great. And the screws were there. When I did remove the door, I have the screws and the door and the brass, and whoever gets this piece, if they'd like to put the door back on, they're welcome to do that. I personally was not going to leave the door on. It didn't make sense. It didn't look good that way, and I need to modernize it a little bit. So I did keep it, and whoever gets it, if they want to paint that door and put it back on, they can definitely do that. They can get it sanded. I did clean it with Odoband. The reason I did that is because it smelled so bad inside, and it wasn't even a smell I could recognize. I don't even know how to describe the smell, but let me just tell you, it smelled weird. It smelled weird and funky and strange. As you can see, it wasn't terribly dirty, so it wasn't like it was full of dirt. That was after I cleaned the entire thing. So I started mixing up wood putty to fill the holes where I had taken the brackets out from the door. And this is just me mixing it up. And then I was getting my painting supplies together and also getting my paint together. And then I'm going to fill in these bracket holes. So as you can see, the bracket holes come out to the front. So they actually come into the front where you're missing part of the front. So I put a piece of tape there. I've done this on multiple pieces of wood. You put a piece of tape to basically build a false wall at the end of that crevice, so that when you fill it in with the wood putty, you actually get a nice clean edge. This is just a close-up look. I don't know what the black stuff was. It was quite strange. This is nothing I did to it. There was also something black inside the door. I don't know if it was ink maybe, but you can see I built a false wall at the end with some painter's tape, and then I filled in the crevice where the hardware was, and then I basically folded over and make a nice 90-degree seal at the end, a crease, so that you can actually, when this dries, it looks like it's originally part of the door, and you don't have to do any additional work to it to make it look like it's a 90-degree angle where that would end. So as you can see, this is the other side of it. And then I do wait a few minutes to let it start drying, and then I do remove the tape because I don't want the tape to get stuck to the putty as it's drying. So I did that to both sides of the piece, and then I had to let that dry. Here's once I've done both pieces. You can see I have creased the tape to make it look like it's actually formed into the normal shape of the piece of wood. I do this also with gashes in like my window trim or door trim if they gets a gash in it. You can see here also, if you look back, there's like gaps in the back of the piece where you can see the light through it. So because of that, I could paint this piece any color. I could paint it peacock blue, I could paint it yellow, but my two choices I had narrowed down to were white and black. And the reason is because I think those are the most popular colors. But white, you would actually be able to see a lot of these cracks and crevices from this piece being so old and not perfect anymore. So I decided to paint it black, Sherwin Williams Caviar 6990. Of course, I also had this on hand. It's a satin paint. And here I am starting to paint. And yes, I do not like painting antique furniture at all. But the good thing is you can have this piece stripped and you can always restain the wood any color you want. This is not permanent paint. And it will modernize a little bit. So hopefully someone will get this piece and love it. And it'll fit into the decor of their home. You know, if they have black and white decor. And here I am painting it. I painted most of it with the roller where I could. I used a paintbrush where I couldn't get into the cracks. And because this is an antique piece and I can't tell if it's actually homemade or not, I can't tell if it's like handmade. There were a lot of little cracks and nooks that I had to really work in. This is the back of it. You can see the back of this piece. That's the wood on the back, and that's also the wood that was in the letter slots. It's definitely a different type of wood than is on the sides and the front. So I don't know. If you know a lot about furniture, maybe you'll know if this piece is homemade or not. I don't know. I have refinished a ton of furniture, and I've never seen this type of wood. So maybe it's something really old. So here it is, just one quick coat to see what it looks like. You can see here it's still wet and it's starting to dry. And when it's wet, it does look a little bit rough. But as it starts to dry, as you can see, it has a slight sheen to it and it starts looking more even and it starts settling down. This is inside the drawer. I don't know if this was some type of oil since it was a secretary or what, but as I was painting the outside of the drawer, it looked like I had spilled paint on the inside of it. So I ended up painting. You can see I painted around the rim, the top of the rim. I'm not going to paint the inside of the drawer, but you can see it just looked a lot better than just painting the front of it. Here is what it looks like as I was still waiting on the putty to dry, and I wanted to just get one good coat everywhere. And then I had to go back and sand. You cannot even tell that those brackets were ever there. You may have to do a couple of coats of putty if you want, but if you do a really good job, one or two coats, smooth it out, sand it, and then just paint over it. Here's where you can see I'd painted everything, and here's what it looks like when it was all finished. And here's the final piece. It looks like something out of Pottery Barn. I could definitely see this in a Pottery Barn showroom. I absolutely love this piece. I'd love to keep it, but I can't because the whole purpose of this is to do something and send it back out into the world better than I got it. So I hope you're having a great day and have a good day.